Tonight, the Dow Jones sinks into correction territory. I know we haven't heard that for a while as the trade war fears rattle the markets. Now, stocks seesawed throughout the session. You had to pay attention today. The sell-off picked up steam in just that last hour of trading. Now, the Dow closed off 425 points. Get this, it's the worst week for the three major U.S. indices in more than 2 years. Yes, if you feel like it's rough, it is. The U.S. moves followed selling and very heavy selling, I should add, in Asia and Europe. The Nikkei was the worst affected, down some 4%. Stocks in Europe closed lower as well, even though the EU is exempt from those U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum. Can you say trade war? Claire Sebastian has been tracking all these numbers for us. I mean, Claire, look, it was in the last little bit that the bottom fell out. Was it on low volume? I mean, what was going on?
Well, it was interesting to watch how it kind of developed throughout the day. We started the morning and I was talking to traders and many of them were feeling quite circumspect. They said, you know, look, China's response overnight with $3 billion in tariffs in response originally to the steel and aluminium tariffs, that was quite measured. We also saw exemptions for the EU and various other trading partners to the steel and aluminium tariffs. And they were thinking, you know, perhaps if there's going to be a trade war, it's not yet. Now we can move back in. Then we get to about lunchtime and we hear these comments from the...
This is torture just listening to you.
It's extraordinary how these things unfold, the volatility at the moment. The Chinese ambassador says to Bloomberg News, look, we're not ruling out the potential to cut back on purchases of U.S. treasuries. That sent the markets into a bit of turmoil. Then we have the spending bill confusion. Will he veto it? Will he sign it? And suddenly the bottom falls out. And I think this is something that we're seeing a pattern that in the last few hours of trading, suddenly people just don't see a reason to buy. And you could say the machines are kicking in. But I think in this case, the volumes were fairly low. We're going into a weekend and the buyers just disappeared.
There was no one buying anything this afternoon. That was clear. What's interesting here is that for months we've been saying that the markets have been shrugging off a geopolitical risk, shrugging off the Trump White House and all of its erratic moves. Has anything changed?
Yes, I think it has.
I was afraid you'd say that, Claire.
Well, I was talking to a trader about this actually yesterday, and he said, look, it's infuriating because we are trading on the entries and exits into the White House, and the fundamentals are still strong. The economy is still strong. Earnings are still strong. Those are the things that are supposed to underpin the market. But I think we're seeing some personnel changes that have a material impact on the markets. Obviously, the exit of Gary Cohn, which just showed just how committed Trump is to this protectionist agenda. The exit of Rex Tillerson, another person who was seen as more moderate free trader. And then just last night, an hour or so after the market closed, we have H.R. McMaster being replaced by John Bolton, who is seen as a foreign policy hawk. That is something that is unnerving to the markets. But we are in a very sensitive situation, Paula, and, you know, pick a headline and they'll trade on it, frankly. That's where we are right now.
And we have to point out that some people actually like this volatility. We've been saying that for several weeks now. When we look at who the winners and losers were, I mean, it was for one of the first times the fact that, look, tech was not escaping this by any stretch of the imagination. Dropbox, we'll talk about them later, but, you know, tech also took it on the chin this week.
Absolutely. Tech, well, the NASDAQ was the worst off today out of all the three major indices. And I think it's, you know, it's partly, we've seen a 1, 2, 3 punch, perhaps you could say, this week. Facebook, the Fed, and now the trade issue. And Facebook was the first thing. And we're still seeing the drumbeat around them. The delete Facebook movement is still going. We saw Elon Musk today come out and delete the Facebook pages for Tesla and SpaceX. There's advertisers that are, you know, pulling ads off the platform. There's the regulatory issue. Mark Zuckerberg has until Monday to respond to the Culture, Media and Sport Committee in the UK about whether he'll testify there. All of that could spread to the rest of tech if we start to see more regulation. And I think people are still very nervous. I said to a trader this week, is Facebook a buying opportunity? He said, you know, it still costs $160. I think it was a buying opportunity at 16. Now it's still expensive.
Yeah, and yet there are some people jumping in. Claire, if we have the stomach for it, let's have a look to next week. I mean, we will have still a lot of risk in the market, even though, as you said, the fundamentals of the worldwide economy really are good. And yet we might hear more from the Trump White House about tariffs.
Absolutely. We've got these deadlines stacking up. So the U.S. Trade Representative says that we should hear the list, which is something that traders are very focused on, the list of products that could face these tariffs. That could come out in the next few days. They have a 15-day deadline, but they've said it could be within days. On top of that, China's, you know, I'm not going to call them reciprocal tariffs, but their $3 billion worth of tariffs, their comment period ends on March 31st. So all of this is coming down the pipe next week, and I think we could continue to see volatility and perhaps more unpredictable events that we have no way of knowing about right now.
Yeah, which the message is we should all enjoy our weekends right now, especially you, Claire. You've had a busy week. Thanks a lot for wrapping all of that up. Who knew there would be so much excitement in the last 2 hours?